it is time for another tier list. It is time to rank HSR characters based on their capabilities as child caretakers, parents. How well can all of these, well, almost all of these characters, father/mother, how well is their mothering, how well is their fathering? We have 4 tiers that we are going to sort these characters in. 5 if you include characters that I deem the children, or at least the characters that take on the role of child. This tier list is gonna be a little different. It's gonna have a little one specific extra rule, I guess. Because if we were to rank all of these characters in the canon universe, you know, the way that they are now in canon, I feel like that wouldn't be fair, because at least half of these characters could not even be included in all of this, because they would be disqualified by default by the nature of just being always on the go, you know, traveling through space, never settling down, being straight up criminals. And I feel like we couldn't even rank them anywhere here because their circumstances would just disqualify them right off the bat. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to modernify. We're going to grab all of these creatures and put them in a modern AU, which is to say that we are going to look at them as normal-ish people living on Earth, doing, you know, more or less regular, normal things. No galaxy rangers, no capitalist hunting criminals, no non-human entities. They're all gonna be human. They're all gonna be doing jobs or engaging in activities that resemble their canon occupations as much as possible. For example, Aventurine, in this case, would still be a businessman, would still be part of a big corporation, would probably still be traveling a lot, like be overseas and whatnot, but it wouldn't be to the scale of like traveling across the universe. Argenti would still keep all his flair and his theatrics and his devotion to his goddess, his religious identity, I guess, but he wouldn't be a knight of beauty traveling from planet to planet. Stuff like that. So that's that. That said, I forgot to remove a couple characters here. The dupes and whatnot. And Aglaya, because again, this is going to be all characters up to 2.7, because as of recording this, or as of streaming this, again, Amphoria's has literally just come out. And I want to wait with the Amphoria's cast until we, you know, until we know them a little bit better. Until we know what their deal is a little bit more. With that out of the way, we have 4 tiers and the children. Starting from the top, we have the parents. Just straight up characters who would do a great job at parenting, who would be great at taking care of and raising children, one or multiple, whatever the case, who would just be able to do it, you know? They can raise a responsible, a loving, and an independent child without much trouble. Then we have the ones that do their best. They struggle along the way. They might need to figure things out, but all in all, they do fine. You know, not perfect, but they'd be able to work it out. Orange is the characters that would probably not be fit to be a parent. The ones who, whether they want to or not, they just, chances are it wouldn't go well. You know, maybe they're too busy, maybe they're emotionally not ready or capable of raising a kid, but chances are it wouldn't go well. And then, last but not least, we have the ones that should not be anywhere near a child, preferably ever to teach them things. Just don't. Just don't. Does the Trailblazer count as a teenager? No. I feel like I would consider the Trailblazer to be like a young adult. You know, maybe like college and stuff. And you know, like in theory, they could have a child, whether adopted or not or whatever. But you know, that is probably going to be a case of I don't think it's going to work out, because fucking don't expect college kids to even have their own life figured out, let alone someone else's. Let's get started with the first character on our list, which is Acheron. Right away, I would say Acheron probably not fit to be a parent. Acheron, while she wouldn't be a Galaxy Ranger in this, you know, in modern times, in a modern era, she wouldn't be like a Galaxy Ranger, not a Galaxy Ranger, an Emanator. Emanator, sorry. She wouldn't be an Emanator. I don't really know what she would do, you know, if she was just a normal person, what kind of work she would do. But whatever the case, in this case, it wouldn't really matter because Acheron, there's too much emotional baggage. There's too much trauma that I feel like she has not yet worked out at all. There's her memory, memory loss issues, whatever you want to call it. That would probably also get in the way. Just a lot of stuff that I feel like she hasn't worked out, and adding a child onto that, she wouldn't really know what to do. I feel like, I wouldn't say straight up no, but I think giving her a child, it wouldn't work out. She may be able to look after a kid for a certain period of time, but raising one, this is not a great, like a parent has to be someone a kid can look at and be like, I want to be like that. I want to be like mom or dad or whoever. I want to be like that person, like that adult. And Acheron is not a good idol, like a good, a good figure to look up to. Clinical depression plus downright early dementia is not a good combo. Yeah, like, I'm not saying that people with mental illnesses can't be parents, of course not. But if you don't have yourself at least moderately figured out, then don't take on even more responsibility, you know? Because as a parent, you don't get to be selfish. You don't get to put your well-being in front of your child's. You know, if you choose to have a child, if you choose to take a child under your care, that child needs to be your priority. Because that child did not choose you as a parent, but you chose them as your child. So there's that. And with Acheron, probably wouldn't work out. Aventurine. Okay. Hear me out. Aventurine, as a person, as you know, as a guy, would actually make for a decent parent, in my opinion. Just like Acheron, he has his issues, for sure. He has his trauma and everything. But Aventurine would know number one, he would know not to let that affect the way he raises his kid. And number two, I think that genuinely being a parent, in Aventurine's case, could even be sort of healing. Listen, have you seen the way that he treated Kakavasha in 2.1? Aventurine is the type of parent that would give his kid the childhood he never had. That kid would be spoiled probably as well, but it would never wish for anything. If that child ever has any sort of problem, it ever gets into trouble, Aventurine would be right there supporting them no matter what and trying to teach them like everything he can. Would he be a perfect parent? No. He does still work for a big corporation, will probably be overseas quite a bit, so chances are he might be more absent, or not present enough to be like perfect, but I think he would do his best to make it work. He would make sacrifices for his child if he had one. So I am putting him up here. Argenti? At least here. Maybe even he, honestly, I think Argenti as a parent would actually be really good. Jade would actually be a very good parent because number one of the most important things that a child needs is positive reinforcement. You know, encouragement, praise, support. Argenti would provide all of that. Argenti is such an openly affectionate man. He is very expressive. He would teach his child to be themselves, to be kind to people, to follow his passions, do what they think is right, do what makes them happy. Even though Argenti is a very religious person, I feel like he's not the type to like force anyone into it, you know? Like he wouldn't like a religious parent that would accept if their child does not support or I guess does not agree with his beliefs. You know, he's a very respectful individual. So I think he would actually do great. So I am inclined to put him up here. He is going to be raising a tiny, possibly theater child because, you know, but I think he'd do great. Arlen, I think not, because I think Arlen just wouldn't really know what to do. I think he would be a little too lost. He can take care of Peppy, he can take care of animals, but humans, I feel like, would be a different issue. I feel like he's lacking the social skills and I guess like emotional skills to raise a kid. So I feel like long term, you know, 18 years, give or take, probably wouldn't work out that well. At least that's what I would say, personally. Asta, I mean, to be fair, like that child would never go hungry because Asta's fucking rich as hell. He already takes care of Asta. You know what? Yeah. I feel like Arlan would just have, like, he has too many responsibilities already. Asta, do I trust Asta to take care of a kid? I mean, financially, yes. But would she make time for them? Would she be able to be there for them emotionally? Would she be able to, you know, teach them the right... I mean, she would probably be able to teach them the right, like, life lessons and stuff. But would she be present enough in her child's life? Also the type to give kids iPads? Oh, no. Well, then, don't. Yeah, I feel like she isn't really fit to be a parent. I think maybe not. Black Swan next. Black Swan does have a sort of motherly vibe. Black Swan, all in all, would do fine. She's a very soothing person, you know? I think that she would be able to do it. I think she would be a decent parent. She would care for her child. She would make sure they were doing well. Maybe, I don't know, there's something that puts me off, makes me reluctant to put her up here. I can't tell exactly what it is, but something that tells me, like, not perfect, but good. You know, all around good. She would be able to teach her kid the right things, you know, to be kind, to be responsible, to stay calm, under pressure, under distress. She'd do fine. She'd do all right. This one, however, would not do all right. Okay, wait. Pause. At first, I wanted to put him here. However, I'll put him in probably unfit to be a parent because Blade already is a girl dad. He is a girl dad. He is just severely traumatized and mentally ill. And he has not worked that out. So I think that if he had to, he could take... I feel like Blade... Okay, hear me out. Blade is the kind of guy that would never adopt a child, like... He would never choose to adopt a child or have a child. When it comes to children, he might be a little, like, clueless. He might not be sure of, like, what to do. But I feel like Blade would be the kind of guy that kids are naturally drawn to. You know, there's some people that even if they have no idea what they're doing, somehow it works. Somehow kids just like them. You know, they just have that like child-friendly aura. And I feel like Blade would be one of those people, but just because he himself doesn't really know what to do, he has too much on his plate to deal with a whole nother little creature for a long period of time. He's down here. But I think in general, children do and would like Blade. Sorry for the delay, but I can make the argument that Aventurine would just bring his kid with him on his business travels. That is true, but then the question is, would that be too much for the kid, you know? Like a kid that either has to stay at home with the other parent or some sort of, like, you know, someone else to take care of him, or they travel all around the world with Aventurine. You know, whether that wouldn't be too much going on. It depends. I think eventually definitely he would try to limit his trips as much as he can. And if he can take his kid with him without it affecting, you know, their life much, like if they actually want to go with him, he would do whatever he can. But yeah. Aventurine just has to make a bet with someone that the kid will be alright and the kid will turn out alright. Honestly, true. Yeah. Just make one bet. He would do what he could, but like his circumstances, even if we, you know, tone them down to realistic circumstances, it'd be complicated. It'd be more complicated. Boot Hill. He would not be a Galaxy Ranger. He would not be a criminal. Genuinely. Because Boot Hill would not choose to get another kid. He would not choose to have or adopt a child. However, if it happened, if somehow he had to raise a kid through whatever means, through whatever circumstances, he would be great because Boot Hill is the type of guy, the type of father to work on himself and fix himself for his child. He would make every sacrifice that he needs to for his child to turn out fine. He would get his life back in order. He would try to be a good role model for his child. A kid would be the ideal motivator for Boothill to pull himself together. And yes, Boothill is, or I guess was, canonically a father. Yeah, he did have a little girl that he took care of, and that died. I think Boothill as a parent would actually be great, just because whatever flaws he has, whatever problems he has, he would work on them to guarantee his kid a happy and healthy and safe life, which is why I'm putting him up here. Like, Boothill as a parental figure, so caring, so nice, so kind, and he would also teach the right lessons. I mean, Boothill's methods, or like, I guess his understanding and sense of justice are a little, not necessarily the most peaceful. He doesn't always have the most peaceful approach, but I feel like that might not translate to what he teaches his child. I think he would teach his child to, you know, to use violence only as a last resort, you know? So I think it'd be fine. Bronya, too busy. Whoops. Bronya, too busy. I think she would, not on purpose, but she, neglect. Yeah, Boothill is like the fun. Boothill is the kind of fun dad that, like, he doesn't have to try, you know? He would be the type of dad to acknowledge that, like, he's not, like, up to date with the youth and whatnot. He acknowledges that, and he just does things his own way, and that alone would make him so fun. Zayla would be the present parent in that relationship. True, but also I don't think Zayla would be a great parent, personally. I don't think she'd be great, genuinely. I feel like, there are going to be a lot of people in the probably unfit, that is true. Even with this, like, handicap, I guess. Yeah, Bronya just way too busy. Way too busy. She wouldn't find time for her kid, I think. Cocolia also manages to be a good mother. Don't see a reason why Bronya can't. Did Cocolia bury herself in her work like Bronya does? Because Bronya is like, she is not giving herself a break. And, I mean, you can argue how good of a mother Cocolia really was. I mean, to Bronya, yeah. But especially later on, I feel like you can... I don't know. I mean, to be fair, Bronya definitely gives the vibes of a child that had to grow up too soon. So, in that aspect, I would put Cocolia's parenting into question. Seeing the amount of paper that Bronya has left after Cocolia, I doubt that she even did paperwork. Cocolia! Bronya really gives like kid that had to grow up too fast vibes, which is an automatic like parenting red flag, because your child should get to be a child for, you know, as long as they can. And I feel like in Bronya's case that might not have been the case. And with Bronya, I feel like that kid, I mean, the kid would be independent, but that is not necessarily a good thing if it happens too early, you know? So there's that. Dan Heng. I think Dan Heng would mostly be fine. He would probably be struggling quite a bit at first, and he would have to get help. He does already kind of parent March, true, and the Trailblazer, sort of. He would have to learn what to do at first, but he would pick up on things very quickly. And the good thing about that is he would, like, his child would quickly learn about personal boundaries and privacy. Because Dan Heng is a person who values personal space, not to the point that he would be, like, very neglectful or negligent. His child would quickly learn the value of, you know, having time to yourself, letting yourself process things, letting yourself, you know, take your time and stuff. And, I mean, if he needs a babysitter, he could just ask March. Like, March, I think, would honestly be a pretty good babysitter. He has Himiko and Velt right there who could give him advice. Like, those two are literal, like, those two are just parents. Dan Heng has a good support network. If he doesn't know what to do, he has enough people that he can turn to. So I think he'd mostly be alright. He'd struggle a little bit at first, especially if his child turns out to be more energetic. But all in all, I think he'd be fine. Next on the line is Dr. Ratio. This is an interesting one. Ratio would be fine for the most part. I think that Ratio's main issue would be he would have to learn how to talk to a child and how, you know, like Ratio is a very blunt person. He's a very direct person. He can be a rather strict person. He would have to learn how to tone that down for his child. The upside is that child would like get the best education. I think Ratio is the type of like, as much as like his students complain about his teachings being way too strict and way too complicated, I think he does that because he expects adults who plan to, you know, work in those fields later to understand what he's saying. And he just wants to make sure that these people are fully prepared for what they can, what they can expect, or for what they later want to do in life. For a child, I think he would be very, very aware that a kid, you know, has a limited understanding of the world, everything going on, a limited vocabulary. That kid may like need more time for certain things, and he would take that time and he would try to adapt to his child's pace. He would definitely get into fight with teachers. He would absolutely get into arguments with teachers. Ratio is the kind of guy, he would get a hand on his child's curriculum and study it front to back so that if their teacher fails to explain something properly, he will do it instead. Like that child will be covered until they graduate. Asian parenting for Dr. Ratio. Isn't the thing with Asian parenting usually that Asian parents are also very strict, and like positive reinforcement isn't really like that common? I think for Ratio, he would try to give lots of praise and encouragement. I feel like Ratio, if he ever had to have a child, he would do research. He would do so much research. And then he would also learn that, you know, punishing your kid for mistakes, it doesn't really work out long term, so he would quickly scrap that idea, and he also wouldn't want that, I think. Learning how to express himself so that children don't get traumatized by him wouldn't be that hard for him, not gonna lie. Yeah, true. It's like, Ratio knows how to talk to people in theory, I think, he just doesn't see the need to. And I feel like if he realized that maybe he's being too harsh on his kid, you know, there might be some misunderstandings, he would try to make sure that his kid understands that he may phrase things, you know, wrong at times, or he may misspeak at times because he's, you know, just that kind of person. And I think his child would quickly learn how to deal with that as well. Not to an extent that like they'd have to walk on eggshells or anything, but just like that they'd be aware if Ratio has a bad day, or if, you know, he's not in a great mood, or if he says something that might strike a wrong chord, they would know that he doesn't mean it. And Ratio would quickly realize what he's doing and try to make it right. All of you to assume he would even send his child to school. That child is getting homeschooled 100%. Also, yeah, true, actually true, yeah. Either that, or they would be taught only by people that Ratio himself considers to be qualified. Actually, yeah, Ratio would hate the school system. So he would definitely either homeschool his child or, you know, handpick their teachers based on his standards. So yeah, there's that. Honestly, I feel like just him homeschooling them would work better, because I mean, the man already has 8 degrees. What's a couple more, you know? Every science subject would be covered. Languages, no problem. He would definitely like hone their artistic skills as well. Ratio's just an all-rounder. So honestly, yeah, he would homeschool his kid. And they'd be doing fine. Ratio would actually teach things that are necessary. He would teach his kid about taxes. For example, which my school never did. And I went to like the highest level of school, like in Germany. So, and they never taught me any of that. So honestly, I would love to have Ratio as a parent. I can deal with some like emotional, you know, bluntness, I guess, you know, some emotional fumbling. I'd be fine with that. Fei Xiao. Assuming she would still be in the military? Maybe not. I feel like Fei Xiao would more so fit the role of like the cool aunt, you know? Like the fun, cool aunt, but not necessarily a mother. I feel like she wouldn't have the time for a child. I feel like that's gonna be the case for quite a few here. Like if she's in the military and she also, you know, participates, I mean, that's assuming she would participate herself in war, you know, in which case that's putting her life in danger. So that kid is going to live with the risk of losing a parent at any given time. So there's that too. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Probably not. I would let her babysit my kid. Firefly. Chronic illness. I feel like my takes on parenting are not gonna be agreeable with everyone, but I feel like probably not. Just because if you have a parent with a chronic illness that could die at any time, that is a big risk. If she's not adopting, if it's like if she's just choosing to have a child, like a biological child, then there is also the risk of, you know, inheriting said illness, and that is another whole problem. Yeah, the terminal illness, like, that's too much to put on a kid, you know? Like, as much as that sucks, if you are terminally ill, if you are running on a clock, you should not put your child through that. Your child should not grow up with the knowledge that their parent could die at any point. That is not something that a child should have to live with. That is guaranteed trauma right there. Highly doubt she would get a kid without getting healed. True, but there's the question. Could she get healed? Firefly, as she is now, there's no guarantee if she can ever get a cure for her illness. Like, that's too big of a risk. It's different than, for example, Boot Hill, where, like, as Boot Hill is now, yeah. I would say no, but Boot Hill is the type of guy who would actively work on himself. And his factors are, they're mostly like mental and lifestyle related and not related to his health, you know? Like something that he has no control over. I also doubt her illness is not an inheritable type one. Jade said there is a way and she's not the lying type. True, but it's the point is finding that way and being able to afford that way. Like there's no guarantee. There is no guarantee. I'm not saying like she couldn't at all or she shouldn't at all. It's just is too high of a risk. So it's probably a no. Fushman, same thing. Kind of similar to Branya. Too busy. Wouldn't find time for her kid, I think. So there's that. Fugue, also unfit because trauma. In Fugue's case, the chronic illness would be, you know, like the after effects of the destruction, which would just be like, I guess, like chronic pain, which in like unlike Firefly is like not a fatal illness, you know, not a terminal illness. So if they could make do with it, but I think emotionally she just would not be ready. Gallagher feels like a wine uncle for some reason. I don't think so. I think Gallagher would actually do pretty fine. Gallagher is kind of like, you know how we call Boot Hill the fun dad? Gallagher would be the dad that tries to be fun. You know what I mean? Like Boot Hill just is a very goofy guy in general. I feel like Gallagher would definitely try to stay up to date with trends and whatnot. It just wouldn't necessarily work. Like he's the dad that tries for sure. It just wouldn't go over, like it wouldn't really work out. But that in itself, I feel like would make him a good father because he cares. He does this research because he wants to be present in his kid's life, you know? And hey, you know, as a bartender, he could teach, like if his kid ever wanted to drink, he could teach them to, you know, be responsible. I think Gallagher all around would be a good dad. Like personality wise, I think he's good. How do what's that meme called? Like how do you do fellow youth or something, or fellow youngins or something? With like the old guy on the skateboard. I feel like that to a toned down extent could be Gallagher. Are you guys feeling skibbity? Oh god, no. But like, you know, like he's fun in the way that like he's just so awkward. But I think he'd actually, do I even put him in A+ parenting for that? That aspect that's not even like a bad thing, you know? Like he's awkward, definitely. Like he's a dork. But as a parent, I think he'd do great. I think he would know how to talk to children. I think he would know how to deal with kids. I'm putting him up there. Gallagher, honestly, no complaints. On the other hand, put him in the busy parent tier, I guess. That man is married to his work, also a soldier, so he goes out to battle. Risk of him dying and that child becoming an orphan, not great. I wouldn't. No. Jeppy would try, but he's awkward around handling kids. That too, yeah. Japard is like, you know how I said like Blade is the kind of guy that children are naturally drawn to, even though he's awkward? Japard, I feel like, is the kind that he's awkward and children might be put off by that. Gwen Ifin. Streamer, danger, possibly. Even if Gwynifen herself tries to be, like, would be responsible and, you know, not show her kid's face off everyone on social media, it's still a risk. It is still a risk because Gwynifen has a lot of very, freaky fans. I would even differentiate between an influencer and a celebrity here because at least a celebrity has, like, dedicated people who are in charge of protecting them. Gwynifen has herself, like, she doesn't have, like, security with her or something. You know, she is just an influencer. It's all on her to keep herself and her kids safe. So I feel like that's too dangerous. Too dangerous. I realize that, like, I feel like this tier, like the don't tier, is gonna be kept just for, like, the extreme cases where I'm like, just don't. Like, whatever you do, like, do not let that person handle a kid or raise a kid at all. I have a couple of characters who would fit in that probably. Hanya, busy, and trauma. So I think that's that. Gwei would be a streamer mom. I'd say immediately don't, but I've seen people pull it off. Yeah, I think, like, as an influencer, you can be a parent and make, I mean, I know influencers or at least, like, streamers, you know, like, there's many streamers who have kids, so I think it can totally work out. Just Gwynifen in particular, I feel like she's not settled down enough for that, if you know what I mean. Hanya, emotional baggage, busy with work. I feel like she wouldn't really she wouldn't be ready for a child. Himeko, mother. That is a mother, assuming she doesn't die in modern times as well. But mother, honestly, can't think of a thing wrong with Himeko. Just a nice, responsible, caring, parental vibe. She'd do fine. She would do fine. Also, I would like to promote Ratio to A+ parenting for what we discussed earlier. Sorry for about... You know what? I agree. Because Ratio, as we discussed earlier, he would prepare. And Ratio is a man that can adapt quickly. So, yeah, I agree. I agree. You know, thinking about it again, Ratio, he might struggle a bit at first, but he'd be on top of it so quickly that I feel like it's a different case than Dan Hong. Unlike Dan Hong, who I feel like might take more time, Ratio would figure things out very quickly. If he has any time to prepare, he will. He will do extensive research, how to raise a kid, what to pay attention to, you know, everything that he can get his hands on. So I agree. We are promoting Ratio to an A+ parent. By the way, these tiers, like, are not ranked. Just because one character is like higher up here than the rest doesn't mean they're a better parent. They're just all, like, somewhere in this tier. Where are we? Himeko. Himeko can't think of anything wrong. She would just be a great mother. She would just be a good mother. That's that. Jade. So, whoops, no, she's not a child. I would put her at the very least in unfit to be a parent. I would possibly put her in don't, just because I worry what lessons she would teach her child. And also, like, that child is eventually gonna know what her mother is doing, which is, I mean, even if I wouldn't call Jade evil, what she does is still shady and, you know, very, very sleazy. I don't think it would go well, because eventually, even if she teaches her child all the right things, eventually that child is gonna figure out that that their mother might not be following the same teachings, and, you know, that would inevitably lead to conflict. Wouldn't that be all Stonehearts though? Also include Aventurine? I wouldn't say so, because the thing with Aventurine is, Aventurine, although he is, you know, also a businessman, I wouldn't put him on the same level as Jade. Jade's deals are inherently very, like, making people sacrifice something big for potentially temporary gains and then kind of trapping them in, you know, like taking advantage of their greed or even encouraging them to be greedy. Aventurine, I think, would be different in that regard, because although he does work, you know, for the same corporation, for the same company, number one, it's like his role is different. He still makes deals, but Aventurine, funnily enough, is also a man that values fairness. Aventurine doesn't like cheaters. He doesn't like cheating. You know, as sneaky as he is, I'm remembering what Black Swan tells us about him, like, early on, is that no one values contracts more than a merchant. Aventurine's thing is, Noor, that you have to be very specific with him. You have to take a close look at the details. You have to make sure that you ask enough questions, you know? You don't leave things out in the open. So in that way, I think he's different from Jade, who kind of encourages people to make very risky and bad choices for things that without her meddling, they wouldn't even have wanted, or they wouldn't even have thought about. So that's where I set those two apart, if you know what I mean. I'm just thinking of whether I would put Jade in the straight up don't tier, or just probably unfit. I don't think Jade is bad with children. I just think that as a mother, Jade is not a good role model. I think that's more so it. I'm inclined to put her in don't. I think Jade, while I do think she would be good with children, or she is good with children, she is not a good role model. Just because her practices are inherently very predatory. That's the word I was looking for. You have Topaz, who admire her, and she didn't turn out questionable. I mean, did she not? The thing with Topaz is more so that Topaz is very what's the word? I guess shrewd is the word. Very profit oriented, and Topaz is also still low-key naive when it comes to the IPC, and Topaz views the IPC a little bit with rose-tinted glasses. So I wouldn't really say that Topaz didn't turn out questionable. I think that Jade definitely has a soft spot for Topaz in particular as well. Yeah, I don't know. I would question the statement that Topaz didn't turn out with, questionable, I guess, or, I think with Topaz, there's also the aspect like Topaz was raised as a member of the IPC, so with her, Jade could just go all in, Topaz was raised with her later role in the IPC in mind. That is the difference. So Topaz has sort of been a little, indoctrinated to view the IPC a little more favorably. And by that nature, of course, also Jade, who taught her a lot. So there's that. I think I would put Jade in don't, as in just don't raise a child. Because either she would let her, she would teach her, she would go the Topaz route, and that child would inevitably also end up like Topaz, I guess, for lack of a better, phrasing. Or she would teach her child, values and lessons that might go against what she actually does, and that is going to lead to conflict later. I might have to rework these two tiers later on. The thing is, though, every single time there's a conflict between regular IPC procedure and what's good for regular people, Topaz never chooses the IPC. That is true. Mostly true, yeah. Although in the end, she does still stand with the IPC. That's what I mean with, Topaz being a little, I don't know if naive is the right word, but, the way she talks about the IPC is definitely more positive than one would expect, the IPC, big capitalist overlords, and Topaz is here well, I feel like people often, they have a very negative view of us, and, that some people might misunderstand their intentions, where I feel genuinely she might be the one misunderstanding said intentions, and trying to portray them in a more positive light than it actually is. The IPC's number one priority is always profit. That's why I think that Topaz in general, she is not really fit to be an IPC Stoneheart, especially, or in the IPC, just because Topaz actually is kind, and her view of the IPC is a little overly optimistic. Does Aventurine, though he still works there, I find all Stonehearts questionable as parent. The thing with Aventurine is Aventurine works for the IPC, not necessarily because he wants to. Aventurine works for the IPC not because he wants to. Jade, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Jade chooses to work, Jade willingly works with these people, and she somewhat represents their views. Aventurine was forced into it. Inevitably, he adapted. But if he had a child, he would teach them life lessons that may go against the IPC's values, but are more in line with his own. And the main reason I'm not putting him up here is because he still has issues to work through. He would probably be traveling a lot, and that might be a bit much for the kid. But As I said earlier, Aventurine would give his kid the childhood he never had. Aventurine wasn't forced, he made a deal, he put himself in the situation so that Diamond would take notice. But what was the alternative? The alternative was death. The alternative was slavery. So did he really have a choice? Like, there was no freedom for him. Either way, it was choosing the lesser evil for himself. He never had a real choice. It's either being property of some slave owner, dying, or being property of the IPC. There was no real choice for him. Also, the girls don't have a death wish like Aventurine, which would put them above him. I mean, does Aventurine still have a death wish? I would argue not. I would say that Aventurine actually never has had a death wish. He's been passively suicidal. It's more so like not caring if he dies. But after 2.1, I wouldn't say that he had that he's like acted like that he has a death wish in any form. He could have run away after killing him or joining the tavern. Could he have run away? Like, do you think you can run away from the IPC with no resources? Like, he's no Boot Hill or something. They would have caught him like right away. Especially like as a teenager, I very strongly disagree that he could have made it out of there in any capacity. And joining the tavern, I mean, we don't really know. I don't actually know. I don't think we know like when he was offered when he was sent an invitation to the tavern, whether that happened before or after, no, not sure. He made deals for a long time under his master's name. What I'm saying is that inevitably his cover would have been blown, and there's only so much you can do to run away from the IPC. I feel like saying that Aventurine had that much of a choice as, you know, a teenager, adolescent, is not fully accurate. I strongly disagree with the idea that Aventurine ever really had a choice. Like, he was always someone's property. His options usually were either being owned by someone or dying. Like, there was no real way out for him.